Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Schroders. We are absolutely delighted to be hosting Nadia's book launch. What an amazing intro video that we've had. And I want to welcome everybody physically in the room, but also to our colleagues who are dialed in all around the world. We have several locations who are joining us for this event. So a little bit on today's format. We've obviously got an amazing panel. Before we get into questions with the panelists, we're going to hear a little bit from Nadia, and then we're going to get stuck into some questions. I have a feeling we're not going to be short of things to say from some of our prep calls that we've done. Now, on the screens around this room and hopefully online, you might see an app called Slido. So if you want to ask the panel a question directly, download the Slido app. You can see the web address there. And once you've downloaded it, it comes up with a screen. You just put WTT, walk the talk, into the code box, and then it will pop up and it will allow you to ask us some questions. And once we've gone through some of the questions that we know we've already got assigned to us, then we'll look at your questions and try and get through as many of those as we can. And then Nadia will do a quick close. And then for those here with us in person, we get to have some nice drinks and refreshments outside. For those online, apologies, but we'll do that another time. Right, with no further ado, I am absolutely delighted to be handing over to Nadia. This book is brilliant. It is not... I'm sure all of us in this room, because of the fact that you're actually here at this event, have had lots of conversations about inclusion and diversity across all different lenses. This book talks about action, and that's what I love about it. And we are very excited to be sponsoring this. So Nadia, congratulations on your book published, and over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am super chuffed that so many of you are here today, and thank you so much for coming here to support me. But more importantly, it's about supporting one another, because this book was never about me. It was always about all of you and everybody within the FinTech space. That's what I'm about. I'm a recruiter. I stand up for other people. I advocate, I support, I'm their ally. And to me, that's what this book was all about. It began with podcasts. So the podcast actually began before the pandemic, but they really went into a much, much faster, and they gained momentum during the pandemic, because we all remember we were all sent home. We all didn't get to speak to one another properly face to face. And I wanted to reach out to the different people across our industry and find out how they were coping, find out what challenges that they were facing, and work out what we could do to support one another better. And that's where the podcast really came from. And now the podcasts are a huge series, and they're called FinTech with Nadia, the DEI discussions, but they started off as the Women of FinTech. And it was about me finding allies and supporters within this space and understanding the challenges that we face, and we often face together, but feel alone in. And what I wanted to do was to show people that this is actually a brilliant, brilliant industry to be in. There's so many opportunities. And you can find a lot of support within this industry if only you know where, and only you know how, and who you can reach out to. That's where the pods began. I was super excited about them, and I knew I had something really special on my hands, because somehow in these conversations, in the darkest depths of lockdown, there was heartfelt conversations about people's careers, and not just the highs of achievements, but sometimes the lows, and like how we handle those lows and how we climb out of those lows. So I knew this was really, really special, and I wanted to do something more about it. So I applied to a couple of book publishing companies, and lo and behold, Palgrave Macmillan came back immediately and said, great, put something together. This book always was about all of us and how we can improve this industry and make it a better place. And I think that what this book really stands for is the responsibility we all have. And, Penny just touched upon it there. Today isn't just about people watching or being spectators. And I love the fact we've got so many people signed up online as well. But everybody in this room and beyond, it's all our responsibility to drive this industry forward and make it better. And I think the way that we can make it better is by really, really igniting the relationships we have with our allies, because there's been so many gender events that are focused on women solving gender problems, when we're all parts of the gender problem, and we need to all be involved with driving this change forward. And right now in the industry, there is so much opportunity for us to drive that change, because everybody is recruiting. Everybody has switched on their mind to how do we make our environments the best that they can possibly be, so people don't just want to join us, they want to stay with us and become the best that they can possibly be within it. So this is why me being a recruiter is so inextricably linked with how we make this industry not an industry only for people to be attracted to, but for people to stay in and thrive in. And that's what the podcasts are about. That's what the book's about. But what today's about is about these wonderful panelists here, because I believe, and I approach them specifically because I think that they walk the talk every single day. And walk the talk to me is about action speaking louder than words. It's about you calling out injustices. It's about you deciding to be part of the solution rather than pointing at the problem over there that doesn't belong to you. It belongs to all of us because our industry belongs to us and the future of it belongs to us. So I chose these panelists because walk the talk can mean so many different things, because inclusion isn't solved with one silver bullet. There's so many things that we all need to be involved in. And each of these wonderful panelists, they do different things every single day to walk that talk. And I think that they will inspire you and give you ideas of what you can take back to your offices. Because at what level, doesn't matter what level we're at within our businesses, we all have responsibility to drive that change. And I want everyone to feel inspired by that. So today, I don't want you just to sit here, and online, I don't want you just to watch. I want everyone to really engage and think, what can I take back to my businesses? Who can I advocate for? Like, who is there? So there'll be someone in your office right now that's been overlooked, that's due a promotion, that should have got that pay rise, that should be running that project, that shouldn't have been spoken over in that meeting. There'll be somebody that you can now think, I'm going to go and advocate for that person because that's my responsibility. Then I want us all to be thinking about who we can find to be an ally. Maybe somebody that never even thought that inclusion was their bag. It is their bag because it's everybody's bag. Who can we go and ignite that passion with? Who can we sign up to this? And today we'll be learning about how we can walk the talk further, because everyone here, just by being here, you're walking the talk. But let's walk the talk more. So as we listen and learn today, have a think, because you will be doing pledges at the end of this. You all know me. I never let you get away with anything just sitting there. But you will be called upon to do pledges as we leave this auditorium. So have a think, because I want you to really focus on being an advocate, finding an ally, and walking the talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Right, so to start with, we are going to get the panelists to introduce themselves, so a sort of 30 to 60-second intro. Jeni, I'm going to start with you and work towards me. So, Jeni.
Great, hi. Well, I'm Jeni Trice. I am CEO and I'm the founder of a company called Get With The Programme. At Get With The Programme, we are all about combining schools and businesses to inspire the tech innovators of the future. And it gives us an amazing opportunity to bring in role models from diverse and inclusive backgrounds. My background is as a tech person myself, as a woman in technology, and I feel very strongly about all of the things that Nadia's been saying. You'll have to excuse me if maybe my emotions come out a little bit while we're talking, because it's such an amazing topic. And I work with my team at Get With The Programme to go into schools and inspire children in all sorts of ways, particularly in technology, but also with inspirational alternative themes and events. Now, you may wonder why I'm dressed as a walking stereotype. More on that later. That's my other C-level role as the Chief Coding Adventurer at Get With The Programme. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeni. Simon?
Thank you. So my name is Simon Schofield. I've been a technologist for too many years. I'm probably inspired by those early ages of home computing, so that probably dates me quite a lot. I've spent my career working in technology firms, mostly within financial services, so typically investment banking, and most recently joining asset management. Typically, you'd find me improving the efficiency and harmony of large departments in my role as Chief Operating Officer. Obviously, not as exciting a title as Jeni over here.
All companies going to have a chief coding adventurer soon.
Hopefully.
All of them.
So again, in terms of what I do in DE&I, I'm the ambassador for Tech at Women, which is an amazing program I'll be happy to talk about more later. I'm also on the DE&I Technology Council we have here at Columbia Threadneedle. And again, I like to get involved in the FinTech and the amazing community we have here, and I think this is an opportunity to do that.
Thank you, Simon. Manu.
Hey, I'm Emmanuel Matthey. I work here at Schroders. I'm the global head of credit risk. I'm also the co-CRO for wealth management. In my spare time, my little spare time, I try and help the Cripplegate Foundation. I'm a governor there, and I'm also a non-exec for Moneyline, which is a not-for-profit community lender.
Super, thank you. Mary.
Hi, everyone. Morning or welcome, depending on where people might be streaming in from. My name is Mary Agbesanwa, and I'm super passionate about how technology is transforming the financial services industry and also supporting millennials to achieve their full potential. How that currently manifests is that I work at Seccl, which you probably haven't heard of, but we're owned by an Octopus Group. We are essentially Stripe for investment. So for anyone looking to launch an investment app, we provide the technology and custody permissions behind that. Previously, I used to work in consulting at PwC for a couple of years, but I'm really passionate about FinTech and what it means to help people build good financial habits, as well as enabling women, millennials or Gen Z to really tap into their full potential. So I also run a business helping women earn more and be more confident. So happy to speak about that soon. I also sit as the trustee for Girl Guiding, which is the largest charity for young girls in the UK. So again, super passionate about this space.
Thank you. I mean, what an incredible panel, right? When we did the intros before, we were like, gosh, I sort of feel slightly inadequate now. Anyway, so what we'd like to move on to now, you've all slightly alluded to things that you've done, and I'd love to hear about your aha moment when you went from reading about stuff and having a chat to actually doing something. So what was your biggest kind of walk the talk action that you did? I don't know who wants to kick off.
I'll go. So I have worked in the technology industry as a teacher for adults and as an IT consultant, PwC actually. I spent a lot of time just feeling completely equal with my colleagues and couldn't see there was a glass ceiling and never felt it at all. I have two brothers, I always felt equal with them. And really it was the point, personally, my personal story, where I started having children, that I felt a difference. And as my children went through schooling and education, I could see that there needed to be more visibility from a technology point of view, but also from an inclusivity point of view. And so that was my aha moment, and I switched to creating Get With The Programme as an amazing opportunity to invite businesses to support schools with our mission, inspiring all the tech innovators of the future.
So that's absolutely brilliant. I know we've got a bit of audience participation. This obviously only works for the people in the room. So people online, you've been let off this exercise, but I think you're going to...
Okay, sorry about this, everybody. So I'm now going to bring out my alter ego, Professor Trice, and I would like you may have noticed that I do have a robot in a pop-up banner. She's not with me today. Her name is Al the robot, Al short for algorithm. And when I go into schools, we talk about a particular topic. We talk about going to the moon, Margaret Hamilton, or we talk about environmental issues, and we bring in role models who are going to be inspirational and give the right kind of visibility to be inclusive. And then we get the children involved in having a bit of fun and programming the robot. And so what I'd like you to do today is we'll divide the room in half. You are going to be robots, and I'd like you to all switch on your robot brains, and you are going to be the testers for the robots. So it's okay. I've got a flag to initiate the test. I'm going to be the designer, and I'm also going to write the algorithm. You may not be able to see that, but it's a hello world algorithm for all you robots out there. It says stand up, wave, and sit down. So engage your robot brain, please. For all of you testers out there, you're going to need to say a few words. There's a chant. It says, robot, robot, go, 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 follow your algorithm, don't be slow. And to get you to start, I am going to wave a flag, green or purple. I'm going for purple. We brought the purple pop-up banner today. So, everybody ready? Familiar with your roles? I'm going to wave the purple flag, and you will say, robot, robot, go, 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 follow your algorithm, don't be slow. Over to the robots. Stand up, wave, sit down again. Brilliant. Give yourselves a round of applause. So, what we've done here, obviously, we have already, with the children, talked about inclusivity and role models. And then we've demonstrated a number of things about technology. And that might be getting the robot to the moon or making sure the robot selects packaging that reduces waste. But you've also learnt the word algorithm, a step-by-step set of instructions if you're not sure. You've learnt the word, oh no, you haven't learnt the word yet. What happens at the end is we need to check the test worked. Were you happy with that test? Yes. Do you need to make any small changes? Was there anything you needed to do to maybe get it just right? No? Okay. Well, it's okay. Sometimes it happens that things don't go according to plan. And in programming, there's a special word for that. It's called debugging. And so we bring in terms, particularly with a growth mindset. It didn't go wrong. You just didn't quite get what you wanted. So you'll have learned algorithm and debugging. And then an image, you've got the opportunity to see how technology implementations work. I've designed and written my algorithm. We have tested it out and implemented it, and then considered how successful that test was. And then we come back to our amazing role models like Margaret Hamilton, who was the chief, software engineer on the NASA spaceships. That's it. Thanks very much. Sorry.
Okay, well, that's it in action. I just thought that was worth doing because I just think it's a brilliant way of engaging with different age groups, right? And just demystifying some of these terms. But Simon or Emmanuel, Mary, any kind of, yeah, Simon?
Sure. I think, Jeni mentioned the watershed moment of having children. I think that definitely makes us all more thoughtful about what society looks like. I think I came into doing more and sort of walking the talk, as Nadia would say. I think by spending more time in the community and seeing different perspectives and challenges that I blissfully walked through life and never thought existed. I was very fortunate that I met Professor Sue Black, who's the founder of Tech at Women. Really just, I went to a conference, we bumped into each other, 5-minute conversation. She was very inspirational. I just said, what can I do to help? And that's how I sort of started on my journey with Tech at Women. Really an organization that tries to provide alternative career paths for women in technology. So not just giving them the training they need from a technical perspective, but really encouraging them, inspiring them to say they can do it. As Sue would always say, if I can do it, you can do it too. So that's the magic sort of dust that she sprinkles. Again, it was just very hard to sort of walk away. And there I am 2 or 3 years later as their ambassador.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think for me it was interesting because it was more, so when I was a teenager, I'm quite the extrovert, and I was always, mostly friend with introverted people, and I was always trying to, I don't know, help isn't the right term, but like I always felt like maybe sometimes the world wasn't a very friendly place if you were quite the introvert. And then I joined the workplace, and I realized that there was a parallel to that, which I'd never thought about, which was women were perceived and treated in the workplace. And so since I've been quite a junior in investment banking, I've always tried to be an advocate, but when you're an analyst, you can't really be an advocate. Everybody's like, shush, just do your work. And so as I've gotten more and more senior, I've just tried to, walk the talk more and more. And of course, as you become more senior, it's easier. It becomes more and more of your duty, I think. So anyone who's quite senior here, this is absolutely your duty to do something about this. But also you become a role model, which is great. So I think when I was in finance at the very beginning, there was no one to look up to that was a senior woman. And the one that were there, and the few that were there, sometimes weren't ideal role models because I guess they had just molded themselves to the success male model. And so I couldn't quite relate. So that's been kind of my I guess I've aspired to be able to do something about that. And then just be a slightly different version of a successful senior woman in finance.
There is, and I'm going to come on to, I'm going to intersperse the questions with the Slido questions. So thank you for those who are posting Slido questions. There's some good ones coming in. But Mary, before we jump to Slido,
So I would say that my walk the talk journey started when I was in school, and we did a school trip to Barclays and Canary Wharf. And for some reason, they took us to the top floor, and I was like, you know what, I love this tall building, everyone in suits, looking super professional and smart. I just kind of became obsessed with financial services and technology. And then when I was studying economics at the University of Birmingham, I noticed that the cohort in my degree was probably about 70% male and 30% female. And when it came to first year and applying to spring weeks and work experience, I would turn to my female peers and say, oh, are you guys applying to these amazing banks? And everyone would be like, no. The girls would be like, oh, no, actually, it's probably not a nice environment to work in. We haven't seen many female senior role models that we can relate to. And the guys on the course would just be like, yeah, we've applied to 10 already. We're so keen. We're definitely going to get one. It's going to be amazing. And I just straight away noticed that disparity. So what I decided to do was collect 30 signatures from women in the economics degree and start the Women in Finance Society at the University of Birmingham, which I hear is still going on today. So if you know any young ladies at the University of Birmingham, do encourage them to join. And for me, that was the first outlet where I saw a problem and decided to do something about it, and creating that society, which had over 200 members, not only women studying economics, but also other STEM degrees, but also generally coming from arts or English or any other degree subjects, was super exciting. So I kind of got the bug of like launching communities and seeing the power of communities for people to learn and be exposed to new areas. So when I joined PwC, I also got involved in our multicultural business network. So thinking about the power of inclusion from an ethnicity perspective, and thinking about the fact that our London office had 16,000 people, but people from over 100 different countries, and the beauty of that and how we could celebrate that. So I started off whilst I was during my internship at PwC, helping relaunch that network up until when I left last August. I was co-chairing that network. And we had amazing events, initiatives. We had Reggie Yates come in and talk about his experience being a Black man that produces documentaries and travels all around the world. But we launched a campaign that was super interesting called the Colour Brave campaign. I won't talk too much about it, but you can research about it online. And it was just the idea that we can all be brave about talking about race or gender in the workplace, and just embracing that idea that it might come with some level of emotional vulnerability. It might feel awkward, especially when you're doing it virtually. You don't know what your colleague is thinking, or they might not have their camera on. So that was a really exciting campaign that we ran. And now at Seccl, we've even launched, since I've joined, we've launched a Women at Seccl group, and just recognizing that we as an investments company that power companies to launch investment apps, we haven't upskilled our own women in our company to think about investing, to address the gender investing gap, to address the gender pension gap. So I would really encourage everyone, as Nadia has said as well, that there's something that each and every single one of us can do in our own capacity, regardless of your grade, your title. It really just takes looking at the opportunity and doing something about it.
Thank you.
Mary,
Awesome.
Yeah.
It really resonated with me, that school trip thing, because I heard someone the other day saying their daughter had dropped out of computer science GCSE because it was all boys. And that's the thing that you know, if what I'm looking to do is to try and give those opportunities for the young people to look into the future. Mm-hmm. What you guys are all doing is making sure the barriers aren't there and are broken down, those biases are gone by the time they get there. But it's having that opportunity and encouraging a community of young women who are interested in computer science, because it's full of people like them. And that really kind of resonated with what you were saying there. It's brilliant.
And that leads on very neatly. So thank you to Rashmi, who posted this question. And I think this will resonate with a lot of people, actually. And the question is, how can we create more representation at senior levels of women of different personalities and abilities, even if you're not like the limelight, really bold, outspoken person? Because let's face it, we all know there are people who have no problem, you know, putting themselves forward and going for things. And there's a whole host of people who hang back, maybe have, just going to say it there, imposter syndrome. Any women in the audience with that? I have so many conversations about that. But I think it's a really great question. Nadia, maybe you want to kick off on this one and then we'll open up.
Yeah, I'd love to, because I think it's very much in the sort of recruitment field, and it's a mindset that we need to challenge, because when people are deciding on who to promote, who to hire, who to give visibility to, it's really easy for the people at the top who are largely a certain demographic to want to find a mirror image of their self, because that's where comfort lies. And there was an individual that I quoted in the book, Helena Nordegren, who I know is online at the moment, who works for Finastra. And she said, and it really stood out for me, but she said, the leaders and managers who are the most comfortable in their own skin are the ones that are really able to hire, promote, raise visibility of people that they don't recognize, that they don't find that when they look in the mirror, it's the same person there. And I think that that's really powerful, because we often look at inner circles and cliques of thinking, and that groupthink is really dangerous to inclusion. It's actually all about diversity of thought. And if we can really empower our current leaders to feel like this isn't an attack on what they have right now, but actually it's going to make us all stronger, then those decisions can be made and those people will be promoted and given better visibility.
I think that's really spot on. And Simon, I'm going to build on this because there's and I'm going to come to you. It'll be obvious in a minute why. The question is, what advice do you have for us men who want to be an ally? I'm scared of doing or saying the wrong thing. And I think it is a minefield now, but any advice? And then again, I'd like to hear from the rest of the panel on both of those questions about the leadership role models and not being a limelight person. But Simon, can you
look, I get it. I mean, I was there a few years ago. I think one of the phrases I always quote is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So just challenge yourself. Look, it's all about learning about society, right? So put yourself in the shoes of others. Just learn. Don't be scared to make mistakes, right? Because I think if people see that you're trying and you're encouraging, we all make mistakes, right? But just put yourself there, see life from a different perspective, and really stand up, right? It could be really simple things, right? So, just like yourself, Penny, we get to organize lots of events, we get to organize panels. Do we always ask ourselves, why is the 5 middle-aged white men all talking on this panel, right? Or on this speaker series? So just the simple things we say, no. That's not acceptable, right? We're somebody else from the community. We're somebody else from the organization. So, yeah, look, learn more about it. Get more involved. Don't be afraid to say what you think. I think that's all what would be my positive advice.
Lovely. Other comments on Mathey?
Yeah, I think one thing I really remember is when in my previous role, I sat on assessment center panels, and it was really interesting because there was 2 panels, on 2 consecutive days, and on one day, this woman didn't get the job because she was too quiet, and on the next day there was a really confident woman, and then this one was too. What was the word? It was something unacceptable. I don't know. Imagine whatever it is that people say about women who are comfortable and confident, and so she was too loud or something along these lines. Feisty, yes, something like that. So I was actually only a third-year analyst at the time, and I just had to say something because I was like, well, yesterday we said no to someone because they were too quiet, but now this one, she's too loud. Like, basically, what do we want from women? We want them to be neither nor. Like, this can't work, and that didn't go down very well. But I do think, though, that I've taken that with me, and I always try and think, because this was an obvious one, but I think we all do this, right? Sometimes we don't realize that we have those, inside us, and, we all know about the biases, conscious and unconscious and all that, but we do have them. And so I always try and think, am I doing something that I shouldn't be doing? And be willing to ask. Like, I actually just try and ask people. It's like, do I do anything that makes you uncomfortable, or was this okay, or did I say the wrong thing? And to your point, and you said emotional vulnerability, sometimes people tell you were wrong, and it's really not pleasant, because I really want to do the right thing, but actually you will only get better when you do that. And also, if you do the wrong thing, just apologize. Like, I remember my child was being a nightmare, and it's like this woman, mid-30s, didn't have any children. I was like, oh my God, you're so lucky. And then I was like, wait, maybe she's been doing IVF for 5 years, as far as I know, and this is like a massive nightmare of her life. So I just went back like an hour later, and I was like, I'm so sorry. And it was not the case, but it was like, I did wrong, and I just went back and I apologized. And if it had been a problem, then she would have been like, maybe she would have been thankful. If not, then at least I tried. But, it's like, be willing to be wrong, basically.
Never make assumptions. That's one of
Yes,
mine.
never make assumptions.
Right. Mary, I'm going to come to you for this, and maybe Mary and then Jeni. So this is an anonymous question, which is totally fine. How can a female junior level aim for a senior level position in a male-dominated workplace? And associated with that, what career advice can you give to a young woman starting a career in the FinTech industry? So, the starting of the career and then how to progress, really.
Oh, wow. Well, I feel like this could be a whole blog post or podcast episode. What do I think? I think on the first question in relation to succeeding in a male-dominated environment, I think alluding to what some of the other panelists have shared, it's almost around not overthinking it. I think also not letting the imposter syndrome hold you back. I like to think that whenever I feel imposter syndrome, it's probably a good thing because it's a sign that I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling uncomfortable. And when I don't feel it anymore, there's probably a sign that I'm too comfortable in this role and I'm ready for my next stretch opportunity. And also I think about it as standing out for the right reasons. Like, okay, fair enough, you might be the only woman around the table very often or the only person of color, but I think think about how it might be used for your own good and maybe how you can, how unique and valuable your perspective is in that room. I know that's definitely been the case for myself. Just thinking, wow, I literally could say anything and they probably have to agree with me. I'm joking, but I think it is really powerful and you definitely provide a unique way of thinking and a perspective as well. In terms of general career advice, I think the whole world would be a better place if women focus less on the things that they might do wrong or how they might offend people or how they might be the only person in the room or things like that, and just instead embrace their strengths and creativity and power. I really believe that. I really think that a lot of people have everything they need already inside them. They don't need to read, apart from this book, they don't need to read any other books. But a lot of the answers you already know, so just trusting yourself more, I think, can be really valuable.
If I can just add one thing, this is, if I can beg any junior person in this room, don't change who you are. This is not worth it. If this place, and this place is not the case because this is a great place to work for, but if the place you're at cannot deal with who you are, just go somewhere else. And I know it's difficult because these are good jobs that pay well, and once you've had one, you feel like you just need to stay in it, but it's not worth it. It's not worth changing who you are, and also you won't be as good an employee. And if you find a place that actually lets you be who you are and lets you, be someone who doesn't speak up in meeting because you'd rather write a well-thought-out email and your boss understands that, then you'll be amazing and you'll do so well. So please don't change who you truly are. You can, of course, I'm a lot more work appropriate nowadays than I used to be because I'm French and it's not that easy for me to just, be British appropriate. But, but I'm still me. And it's find that balance between being professional but still remaining you.
Well, on that note, I'd like to say how professional I'm feeling at this moment in time with the rest of you. But I think there's a few things that I wanted to address. The imposter syndrome, I look like I'm confident. I look like I am fully sure of what I'm going to say and what's going to happen next. But I feel it a lot inside. And even last week, I was putting a post for International Women's Day about how to try and get over that. And people have generously said that they see me as a role model because I go into schools and I represent the women of technology to children. But you need to look at yourselves as role models too and see how you're perceived. And you guys, being the first person on a board in that particular environment is amazing. And that just makes the next opportunity for the people coming behind. They can see you and they will represent, they will follow that path because you're there.
But also I think about assumptions, right? Actually, I think most people have imposter syndrome in a nice way. And and also extrovertly. In my first job, I did well. I was like, oh, I've been lucky. Then I moved to Australia. I did well. I was like, oh, been lucky again. Then I went back to my previous job. I was still doing well. I was like, oh, and then I moved here and I was still doing well. I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe, no, don't be silly. And it's actually, I think, be okay with it. It's fine. It's you challenging yourself and don't see it as a negative thing. But you deserve it. You worked hard, you arrived here, and that's fine. But it's fine to have imposter syndrome because you're just challenging yourself. I think it's okay.
It is amazing how many female colleagues I speak to and friends who I'm so lucky. And you think, actually, no, you worked hard and you're quite smart. And you can just sort of, what? No, I can't say that out loud. I've done that with people who I mentor. Repeat after me, I, insert name, I'm good at my job. It's very interesting.
It's uncomfortable.
Yes, a lot of people can't do it.
But you have to embrace those uncomfortable moments and ensure that you kind of look at the horizon that you're aiming for and push through, because it's important to say the things that need to be said.
So on that uncomfortable truth, perfect segue. It's like you read the question, Jeni, which I don't think you did, because I can't see you've got a device there. But there is a question, and I'm hoping I'm going to interpret this properly. The question is, and again, Nadia, maybe we start with you. How do you overcome this initial uncomfortable truth conversation without it coming across? I think there's a danger of DE&I conversations being quite finger-waggy, quite negative, quite preachy. I mean, when I joined, I was the only female on our leadership team. Now 3 of us, hooray. But, you know, and I spend my life saying it's not key man dependency, it's key person dependency. And my colleagues, bless them, have been very good. You know, they listen to what I'm saying, to your point, Mary. But, you know, I think there can be this perception about things being difficult, awkward, negative. So how do we get around that, Nadia?
So I know that Felicitas Koulibaly is in the audience somewhere, and this is a conversation that we had recently where she spoke about just taking the aggression out of the challenge. We need to reframe our minds on when we're having this conversation that it's not all negative. It's an excuse for us all to get better. So, you know, there's something that I talk about a lot. You know, every problem is an opportunity in disguise. You choose to view the world in the way that you want to view it. And I think with this in particular, it's almost like we all need to just have a pact with one another. That we're not out to get one another. We're not doing this for a negative reason. We're doing this to get better together. And once you sort of get that agreement, then you can challenge one another. You can say well, that's not good enough. How do I make you better? Because you are putting blinkers on and you're holding yourself back by not being inclusive, by not listening to that point of view, by not encouraging psychological safety and diversity of thought within your business. So yeah, I think we have to, again, challenge ourselves, but be very positive in the challenge of one another to bring people along rather than exclude people from the inclusion mission. So it's a very important mindset, I think.
And I think it brings up our concept of growth mindset. You know, it's not what have I done wrong, where are things, you know, what mistakes have I made? It's how can I do better? It's what alternative is there to this problem is too hard. No, I haven't tried hard enough. What can I do to keep trying? And those sorts of things are really applicable to this kind of environment.
Manu.
I was also going to say that I think it helps when people realize that actually, you know, we might be doing something for women, but it ends up benefiting a lot of people. And I think I have 3 examples, right? Like I try to schedule things around childcare commitment. One, because I have a child, but 2, because I think senior people, for a variety of reasons, often forget. And so you end up a super important meeting. When is it? 8 a.m. or 6 p.m. Well, that's perfect. So I can't attend. But so I try to take care of this. But hey, it's not only women who do childcare, right? So actually here you've benefited an entire portion of men who do that. Or, you know, maybe they do half, maybe they all of it. So it's good for these guys. I was talking about the introverts and versus women at the start of my career. And like, you know, some of the thing I've tried to work on women actually benefits also all the men out there who are not extrovert, who are less, outspoken. So that works for them. And my third example is I'm on Shout, which is our LGBT plus network. And so we basically did a drive of adding pronouns in people's signatures. Well, yes, this is good for, get like gender discussion going, but also we're a big firm. Like some people work abroad. They won't know if I'm a woman or a man from my name, Emmanuel. Actually, it could be both, even in French. So this is great. Now we've actually solved a completely different problem, which is one to, I might not know whether your first name is woman or man, and now it's sorted. So actually, often when you do one small change for a specific portion, you benefit a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. Okay, I'm going to switch tack now, and I'm going to ask about recruitment. So the question is, how can hiring managers take action to build diverse teams organically rather than just doing, ticking the box? And I know the standard answer is going to be have a diverse candidate slate. How many people have heard that before, right? And we go out to our recruitment agent, we're challenging our recruitment agents to give us, diverse candidate slates. What else? Again, Nadia, because I know you cover this.
Yeah, I'm very, very passionate about this. Yeah. We've got to work hard at it. We can't just... The problem with this is people like to say, oh, I've done something to cover that. But then the results aren't changing because you're not actually changing what you're doing. So I run something which used to be called the 17% list, is now called the 19% list. A lot of you here will recognise it. And it stands for the percentage of women that work within technology in the UK today. So as of 2020, across the whole of the UK in technology roles, only 17% of them were filled by women. And the worst thing about that was that it had not changed for 7 years. So every time we were attracting women to the industry, we were losing the same amount of women out of it, which is why at the beginning I spoke about environments and looking at how we can retain, invest, promote, educate, support people in their growth and their career growth. But actually, to answer your question, how do we solve this? The 17% list, now the 19% list as of 2022, was me not saying we're going to fulfill your quotas. So every time you advertise a role, it'll be 50-50 representation, which is going to be incredibly difficult to do at one point in time when we are facing such a deficit of numbers. And it won't be a clear or true reflection of the talent pool that's out there because of the deficit in percentage. So it doesn't solve the problem on its own. Instead, what I wanted to do was give the visibility of women when they were looking, not when the business is looking, but when women are looking, and the businesses who will be looking at some point this year, give them visibility at the females' time that they're looking for their role. And a program that was challenging how people recruit and getting people to think outside the box. There were some businesses that loved it because they wanted to change their process to drive results. There were other businesses that said, oh no, we can't do that, but we still want to affect our gender imbalance. Well, this is one of the solutions we can do. And actually, it's been a brilliant solution because that program has now found over 100 women roles that have been created for them, not roles that they've had to fit into a box, but creating roles that they want to step up into. And what's happening and what I'm seeing is that these women are staying in those roles because lo and behold, if you don't hire somebody who can do the job with their eyes closed, but you're challenging them, stretching them and believing in them, they're going to stay. So for me, it's really simple. Get signed up to the 19% list and I'll help you.
I love that. That's a brilliant plug for you. But well done. There you go. You heard it first. There's your solution. Okay, there's another question here about, and I think this is, again, it's another common theme. Does promotion and seniority of roles come at the expense or the cost of having a family? So I'm going to say everyone, not women, everyone have it all, or is that a myth?
I think that's why I wanted to, actually, it was one of my main drivers of becoming more senior, because in the past, we had those talks when I was at JP about senior MDs from the US, women coming in being like, you can have it all. They had 2 nannies, a cook and a driver. Of course you can have it all. Like, not a problem. Like, I have none of these things. And so, yeah, I come in late and I leave early and I work in the evenings. And that's my choice. I think you can have it all is sometimes a bit simplistic. You have to make some choices, but also you have to have a supportive work environment. Like, my boss doesn't care if I leave at 5 and actually doesn't expect me to come back online at 9 because that would also be annoying.
The thing that's important is more people need to see that as perfectly normal. Leave at 5 o'clock or work remotely, and that's okay because you can be available for your family if it's needed. And it no longer needs to be very long hours. You can achieve just as much, but then you need to normalize those sorts of things.
And that's why that's the point of role models, right? Is actually, I used to be, because I'm gay, when I started in finance, I was quite outspoken, like I'd drop my girlfriend in every conversation just because I was like, let's make this clear. And now I'm like, I've moved on. Like, I'm just so obviously gay anyway. It's fine. But now it's like I drop my child and everything. And if I can't make a meeting, it doesn't really matter if I had actually nursery run that morning. I will mention that it was at nursery run time because I just want people to remember that this is a thing for people who have to have childcare commitments. That it just doesn't work. It's not like an optionality, which I think if you haven't had to do it, you don't realize. You think, oh, well, you can move it. I'm like, well, they can't tie it to a tree, So I think it's just that. That's being outspoken about it. And so now I'm probably, actually some people maybe who work here will tell me that I am annoying about this and yeah, deal with it.
But it's weird because I don't have kids by choice. But I have 3 working mums on my team. And yes, we sometimes have to work a bit harder to find a meeting slot that will work. But I know 100% by giving them flexibility to come in a bit later or go earlier, I then, I can see them logging on and they get their work done. I don't have to micromanage them. these are adults. They want to do this job. They want to make it work. So yes, there's a little bit more effort, I think, that you have to, but the dividends that you get off the back of it, and you get, guess what, a diverse workforce. Anyway, but
the thing I noticed when I was doing some updating for my LinkedIn a few years ago was I wanted to put down that I was working part-time. And somebody looked at me and went, no, you can't put part-time. It's going to look really bad on your CV. I'm like, but it's the reality of what I do. And I want to be represented for that. I'm successfully working part-time. Why am I going to say something different? And that just needs to become acceptable. It needs to be acceptable that people don't necessarily work every day of the week and that they don't work the full hours. They get paid for what they do. They do a great job, yes, but not have this kind of hiding behind that information that is not being honest and true about what they're doing with their time. I think LinkedIn have now recently put in the opportunity to save having a career break, which is an amazing step forward. And I think that's brilliant.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at the fact that we can say having a career break is an amazing step forward. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but it's sort of, that's also a symptom of the problem.
But in what way? How do you mean?
In the sense that, in the fact that it's taken so long, I mean, it's 2022.
Oh, yes.
The fact that only now can we admit we're having a career break, that doesn't seem to be a negative thing. Speaking of breaks, I'm just watching the clock here, and we are just needing to manage a few bits of time here. So I'm going to get into sort of last questions. And I'm going to let you think about this question, Nadia, whilst we ask the panel another question, because I love this. The question is, what's your follow-up book to your current one? So I'm going to let you think about that. But I also like this question, and maybe this is, see if we can do a quick fire. What's the hardest thing or event you've had to deal with a DEI lens? Hardest thing. Hardest challenge, most awkward moment, any of those types of things. Simon?
So when I was on my sabbatical or career break, which I thoroughly recommend if you get the opportunity, and as I recommended, I went out to the community, and I remember going to a really great community event called UK Black Tech. So they had a joint event on with some, I think it was an accountancy firm, and then they went to an investment bank who should not be named. So I turned up, and again, amazing community, UK Black Tech, a big shout out to them, made me feel really welcome. And I just went around chatting to people. And of course, they said, so you're with the accountancy firm? And I was like, no, I'm with UK Black Tech. And they all went, but you're white, you can't possibly be associated with this community. So that was, I think, something that struck home to me about just the bias that was so obvious that people thought.
That's quite startling, actually. Yes. Anyone else? Hardest challenge?
I can have a go. I think in 2019, when I was still in consulting, I did a project where I was based in Johannesburg, so working for a South African bank. And that was a big shock for me because I'd never been to South Africa before, and I didn't realize they had like 11 national languages. So just being in a workplace where English was spoken, but there was so many other languages spoken as well, it was a true culture shock. And that for me was a good reminder, not only the experience that I went through personally, but also how we had a team of 30 British colleagues working with 30 South African PwC employees as well. And just all of the cultural challenges and journey that we all went on to learn about the country that we were like based in for a while, working together, learning different working styles. And I think it was such a good example of how for different people they wanted to experience that they were going around the journey in a different way. So for some people, they wanted to fully get immersed. They were going to brides every weekend. They were trying to eat South African food. Other people were a bit more hesitant and wanted to learn in different ways, maybe through conversations and speaking to clients. So I think for me, that was a good example of it can be challenging when you're immersed in a new environment, whether it's a country or workplace. But understanding what your best learning style is in terms of whether you want to have one-to-one conversations to get to know people better, or you want to read books or go to museums. I think everyone might have a different approach to thinking about diversity and inclusion. But at the end of the day, it's really just about being empathetic and understanding everyone is human and is probably trying to achieve the same thing.
I've actually thought my biggest challenge was, I've alluded to this before, realising that I wasn't equal to my brothers when it came to work opportunities once I'd had a family. And, you know, it's a bit of a shock, actually, where you kind of feel that you've got this complete normality and always been treated as an equal, and suddenly the roles aren't available to you anymore, and the flexibility of working hours just isn't there. And you know, obviously I make my role work for me now, but it's an amazing difference that it opened unfortunately a very negative world that wasn't accessible to me anymore until now.
It is interesting. I think until you've had, and it doesn't matter what the experience is, any experience that puts you into a negative position, and you suddenly understand what it's like to be, and then the challenges, and you have to work really hard. This stuff is not easy. If it were easy, I don't think you would have written this book, and we wouldn't be having this, you know, we'd be sitting here with lovely diverse workforces and no cultural challenges, or no one with imposter syndrome. Well, maybe not that, but you know, there's I think lots of things would be different, but I think everybody's got to work a bit harder on this, haven't they? Yeah. Yeah.
We all have advantages that we don't realize we have. And so then sometimes you get into a place where, you know, other people have more advantages than you do, and then you realize, oh, that's not fun. So then we just need to remember all of these advantages we do have. And I think it's also simple stuff, right? If you have two parents, good job, you're advantaged. You know, it's just the simple things that you need to remember how privileged you are, but without feeling attacked by that notion. And I know for me, one of the toughest things, because clearly this is a topic I'm very, very passionate about. And a few years back, I walked into a room to meet an MD and so a managing director, an executive director. And I walked to the guy, assuming he was the MD. What a shameful behavior from my part. It was, of course, the woman who was the MD, but I just didn't think about it, just assumed there was a guy. And that's for someone who's actually really, you know, key on this. And so we just need to admit, like, it's there, it's built into us, and we just have to proactively fight it. So, you know, don't be ashamed, like I wasn't proud of myself, and it was, you know, but it actually was a great learning opportunity to remember that it is so deeply there that you need to proactively try and educate yourself. And what I say for the other side of the equation is speak up. If, for example, if I've said anything in this meeting that one of you thought wasn't okay, come and tell me. I'd love to hear about it. And do that with people, because if people don't learn, they can't actually grow, right? And sometimes maybe people won't be too happy to be, you know, told, but if you say it nicely and in a constructive manner, then you'll just benefit everybody else. And so that's also our duty is, you know, if I've been insulted by someone saying, oh, well, that was a bit gay in a negative way, then I'll be like, hey, maybe that's not ideal. Yeah. And that's okay, right?
And I do think that people struggle sometimes with literally finding the right words to use. The earlier question about how can you have these difficult and something that can be perceived as negative, how can you have these conversations? And I think that, do you understand how that comes across? Or actually, that wasn't great for me. You know, you can't tell people how to feel. And I think having a few of those stock phrases in your backpack that you can pull out when you need to, because it's always, I mean, how many of you come out of a conversation going, damn, I didn't say that, I should have said this, you know, right? And somebody said something and you think, I should have stood up for whatever it was, women, you know, neurodiversity, invisible, I mean, pick your diversity lens. Right, I'm just, again, clock watching. Jeni, lots of people, I'm going to probably guess, are going to come and find you in the lobby because you're in high demand. So Jeni will be staying around afterwards. And if anybody needs Jeni's contact details, then obviously let us know and we can.
Oh yeah, and there's a flyer in the grab bags, in the goodie bags.
So for people who are online, we can sort that out virtually as well. Don't worry about that.
I've got a few tech adventurers in the audience. They've got to get with the programme badge on. They've got cards to give out. So please find them if you do want. You can't get hold of me.
And Nadia, we're going to hand back to you in a minute to close the event, but have you had a chance to think about what your next book's going to be about?
Well, so it has crossed my mind. So as I said at the start, the podcast series is now the DEI discussions. It has a number of different series within it, not just women of FinTech. There's humans of FinTech, there's the talent surgery, there's the maternity and paternity stories of FinTech, but I am still astounded is that anywhere online that you Google for any sort of advice as a parent who works, it is devoid of any answers. And that's why I started the maternity and paternity stories. It was when I was pregnant and I was thinking, well, how am I going to handle being a mum and having a career? How will I be able to cope with it all? And you can cope. And there's so many supporters of me throughout the whole podcast experience that taught me how to get back to work really quickly whilst having a breastfed only baby twice in a pandemic. You know, like there has been so much support, and I think that would be a really good book to write. But also what I've been talking about today, it's about igniting and engaging those allies. And I think there's a lot more allies out there than we think there are, but a lot of them don't necessarily know what to do or how to do it, but they want to do it. And I think I'd like to shine a light on them and giving them the confidence to support us in our journey.
And
What I was just going to say very quickly is, you know, what we're doing is giving those opportunities to young people, but what the rest of you are doing is breaking down the barriers to make those opportunities available to them. And it's so important to give everybody that sort of equality. So please have a look at our flyers and do consider sponsoring one of our shows, because it would be amazing. We've got a big sponsor coming up soon that I can't mention, but it's a well-known global healthcare brand that we're going to be announcing very shortly.
That's very exciting. You heard it here first, so watch that space. And Nadia, there's a question specifically aimed at you. So I am going to. What was your moment of DEI realization? So when this whole thing kind of ignited in you, what was it that made you respond this way and create all of this?
So I'm really glad that question's been asked, because it's actually a really, personal answer. And my colleagues at Harrington Starr will know. For many years in recruitment, I did this to DE&I because I didn't feel that I could drive change. And just to be really clear, I started in recruitment in 2005. So, the word diversity, equity, or inclusion was not in the dictionary. It wasn't to have a conversation about it, and I didn't feel that I could make any change. But when we started Harrington Starr in 2010, and I remember it really clearly. I had the confidence of a great ally, my CEO Toby Babb, and I felt that I could start driving change. And more importantly, I started changing the way I perceived myself. And I thought, I can't now wait for someone else to fix this. Like, who's there to fix it? It's kind of me. So I'm going to go and do that. And it's manifested from there. It turned into me talking at different events and highlighting the great things that companies were doing to actually drive change. It then turned into a podcast series. It's turned into a book. And, what next will it turn into? But I know it's about engaging everybody in this and walking the talk and driving action. I know that that's what it's about.
That's brilliant. I sort of feel that's actually quite an appropriate moment to close out on this. Are there any final words that you wanted to say, Nadia? Because if yes, we'll let you do that. But before we do that, I just want to take this opportunity to say a big, big thank you to the panel. So thank you. So, Nadia, we're going to give you the stage just because this is your day. It's your book. It's your publication. So why don't we let you close out? And then we'll see, hopefully, some of you outside in the lobby. And for those online, thank you for joining in. Nadia.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I am so chuffed that we have filled this room absolutely to the brims. And I know that there's so many people online. And all I really wanted, everything to do with this book, was to shine a light, the wonderful people within FinTech. And I feel like today we've done that. Like, I'm so, so happy. But there's work to do. Because Walk the Talk isn't just about us listening to a nice panel, watching a great video that was done by Lydia. It is about us thinking, what can we do next? How can we all be involved? And we hopefully have been inspired, engaged, and lots of different ideas going on in your head. So as you go out and have the wonderful lunch that Schroders has put on for us, there is a pledge board. And I want everybody to get involved in their pledges. I want people to be thinking, who can you go out and advocate for? Who has been overlooked? What can you do to really stand up for them? Next thing, who is going to be your ally that you bring into this movement? Because it is a movement. if we make it a movement. It cannot be that we just rest on the marginalised and we wait for people who aren't in the demographic of privilege to try and drive change. I mean, that to me is madness. We have got to really push this movement out to as many people as possible. And it's brilliant to see you all here today, but I want you to be thinking, who can be your advocate? Who can you advocate for? Who can be your ally? And how can you walk the talk? So I really, really hope that you've been inspired today. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to everybody online. I've got quite a few thank yous, so bear with me. Thank you to the Harrington Starr marketing team, Lydia, Alexandra and George, as she's told me to say. They have been absolutely brilliant in supporting me and making today as wonderful as it is. Everybody from Schroders, Steph is standing there in the corner. She deserves a massive round of applause for helping us with everything. Aaron and Melissa were brilliant as well. Thank you to the AV team. And of course, to our wonderful panelists and Penny, who've been absolutely fantastic. And all of this today would never have happened if it wasn't for Schroders supporting us and walking the talk. The same with OpenFin, the same with PPro. And I know Paul Rain is in the audience. FinTech B2B marketing have been such supporters. And it's about us taking this and moving it forward. So thank you very much, everybody. Be an advocate, find an ally, walk the talk. Thank you.